All right, all right. Let's get this going here. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this evening's Jumpstart Your Mindfulness. I don't know about you, but I've been waiting for this all week. I have some stress that I need to get rid of, and I want to be sure that we do that together. So, if you are like me and you are excited about this, just go ahead and raise your hand, drop something in the chat, let us know where you're tuning in from, and we are going to get this started very soon. I want to All right. All right. Well, let's get a Q&A a little bit, a get to know you session with Amanda first. So, first question being where are you currently in the world? Where in the world are you? Oh, okay. Kansas City. All right. And then the next question is where's your favorite place to be in the world? Okay, okay. So then let me drill down because I want a geographic location. Where was the best vacation you took with your family, or where was the best moment that you've had with your family?
I really love fishing with my dad. So, but I don't know the name of any of like the lakes that we go to. But it's okay. Usually people see me, they wouldn't think that I love to fish, but I actually do. So I love fishing with him. My mom really likes to travel, and my mom and I have like visited some really cool places. We always went to St. Louis growing up because that's where my mom is from, and so it's always nice because you see a lot of family, and it's just like it's like a second home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, dude, have we done any like big vacations? When I was little, we went to Virginia Beach,
All right.
and yeah, that was cool.
Cool.
But yeah, I really love Austin, Texas. I like to skip down there from time to time and just like act like a kid and go ride scooters around.
That's awesome. I love Austin too. Great brisket, great live music. Just a great town, and it's really evolved over the years. But I like going down there during South by Southwest to meet different companies and see a lot of the demos that are happening. It's just a pretty cool town. I was born in Texas, so I call Texas home.
Okay.
Uh, Although I also call Maryland home too. So I guess I'm
Okay.
just home is wherever I am or wherever I'm from.
Right. Yeah.
But but yeah, it is all good. So cool. I love that you travel. You like fishing. You like spending time with family. I'd imagine that family is a way to decrease stress, as long as everybody is acting right. As long as they're acting right, right?
It can be. Some people's family is super stressful, and my family, I love them dearly. We have our moments, of course, just like any other family, but I feel very like blessed to be able to say that it's such a pleasure to be around my family at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. 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 Well, so let's kind of jump into the program part of this a bit because people are here to get some practical tips. But before we get started, I want people to know how they can connect with you. So if you could kind of give your elevator pitch for who you are, what you do, what sort of companies you work with, or what populations you work with typically, and then we can kind of go into the program.
Okay, awesome. So you can connect with me mostly on LinkedIn is where I'm actually the most active. You can find me, just search Amanda Muhammad. And then also on Instagram, I'm at MakoMindfulness. And you'll see that's across the bottom of the presentation. So just put an at before it, and you'll find me over on Instagram as well. And dropping a lot of tips over there for stress management, navigating, different things that you may be experiencing. And as far as what I do, so I am a mindfulness based stress management consultant, which means that I use mindfulness based practices to teach people how to address managing stress. And so, what I really like to focus on are what are those things that we can do throughout the day to manage our stress. So, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I don't have time for a yoga class," or "I can't go for an hour long walk every day." And I had to realize that as I was facilitating trainings, I'm like, okay, a lot of these different tools that we have and ideas of things to do for managing stress, they're not practical for everyone, right? Like if you are coming home from a long day at work and you've got four kids to tuck away, like some of these things might not be practical, right? Like
Yep.
sleep is important. If you can get it, yeah, go for it. But I was running into a lot of people who sleep was such a luxury. So I ended up focusing on those little things that you can do throughout the day that can make a big difference over time. And so, as far as who I work with, it's one of those things as an entrepreneur where when you first start, they're like, niche down. And then it was like, I mean, for the most part, it's like, do you have stressed employees? Okay, let me come in, right? So I think that it's more so in the content that I teach, and then the audience that desires that content. And so for me, again, it's about those little things that you can do throughout the day for folks that are very busy, that don't have much time, and that are looking for simple strategies that they can do that doesn't require anything outside of themselves. I do work with a lot of I mean, all size companies. I have huge, Fortune 500 company clients, and I work with smaller companies, but really it's just about making sure that the employees have tools on an individual level to build resilience to the stress that they are experiencing.
All right. All right. That's great. And, you said something that really resonated with me, and I'm sure resonates with people that are tuning in, is just the fact that it is so daggone hard to find time to exercise or do yoga or go on a trip with friends. And even that can be anxiety driving, because I even think about, I have two little ones at home, and sometimes I am paranoid to hop on my bike because I'm like, well, mom is asleep, and rightfully so. She should get her rest. And if I hop on, what happens if I'm midway through and somebody, wakes up crying and I got to go run to them, and then I just, miss my workout. So that's a very real reality, is that even those things that we say are help relieve stress, they do, but they're not always practical. We're not always in a place where we can utilize them. So that just really stuck out with me. So I'm going to be taking my notes, writing things down to see how I can be present and reduce stress, uh, even when I can't ride my bike or go on a run or something.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on what you just said too. It's not one of my tips for today, but it's such an important tip too. It's just like that accountability factor, because a lot of times it's like we make time for the things that we desire, right? Like there might be times where I'm like, oh, I'm too busy to do this, but I sure won't miss my Handmaid's Tale. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or watch Good Girls, or And so I think it's also important to like have that level of accountability when you are looking at how you spend your time, and seeing if there's anything else that you can do that can just kind of like, if there's any way to kind of alter your priorities, if you will, right? When you
Yep.
notice that you do need more time to take care of yourself and things like that, taking an assessment of how you are spending your time and seeing if there's any way to weave in something that is, you know, a little bit more self care into what you're doing throughout your day.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
All right. Quick plug for Jumpstart, and then we'll go into your session.
Okay.
So, Jumpstart HR, we provide HR outsourcing and project management for small businesses and startups across the US. So, it's likely you have joined this presentation because you are stressed at work. If that's the case, you need to hire Amanda to come in and lead a mindfulness training, but you need to hire Jumpstart to come in and help fix some of the issues that are causing stress in the first place. So this is a tag team approach here. That's the only plug I'll give for tonight. If you want to learn more about us, you can visit us at jumpstart-hr.com. Also, if you go through this session and you're like, man, there's someone who should have been here today. I needed to give this to my boss or to my friends or my colleagues. We're going to have this on our website. It'll become one of the courses that we offer on our website. And anyone who signs up will be able to also get in contact with Amanda as well. So that opportunity won't be lost on you or your colleagues or anything like that. So without further ado, Amanda, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, you can take up the whole screen here and go right on in.
All right. And see my presentation?
Yes.
All right, let's rock. Okay, so again, thank you all for having me here today to just talk to you about how we can begin using mindfulness practices to manage our stress, to build resilience to the things that we are experiencing day to day. I actually would like to start out with a brief mindfulness practice. And what we're going to be doing is a practice of mindful movement, breathing, and centering techniques that you can do throughout the day to manage your stress, to build resilience. And so we'll begin by sitting up nice and straight. And you know what? I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so you can see me a little bit larger here, okay? And I can also spotlight my video. So now you can see even more of me, okay? So we'll begin by sitting up nice and straight, your ears above your shoulders and your shoulders above your hips. Placing your hands down on top of your lap, and you can bring your eyes to a close or a low gaze as we just begin to settle in for a brief mindfulness practice. So again, we're just going to do a little bit of mindful movement, breathing, and centering. So just taking a moment to notice your breath, your inhales and your exhales. And as you're breathing, just noticing if you feel any movement in your belly, your back, your chest, And if you don't feel anything, that's okay too. Just noticing whatever you notice in this moment. Taking note of any sounds that you hear. Could be my voice, maybe something you're picking up on my end, or anything in your room, wherever you're seated. Noticing your feet on the floor. Noticing where you're seated. Just continuing to breathe as you notice. Just taking a moment to think of 2 things that you're grateful for today. Now I'll sound a bell, and when you can no longer hear the sound of the bell, you can flutter your eyes open, and we'll continue our practice. Now, as you inhale, sweeping the shoulders up towards your ears, and as you exhale, dropping the shoulders back down. Again, breathing in, shoulders come up towards the ears. Breathing out, shoulders come down. Breathing in, shoulders up. Breathing out, shoulders down. Breathing in, shoulders up. And breathing out, shoulders down. Now, keeping the shoulders down, take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, drop the right ear down towards the right shoulder. Just noticing if you feel a stretch in your neck. Careful not to overextend as you take a deep breath in, coming back to center. And breathing out, dropping down to the opposite side. Breathing in, head comes back to center. Breathing out, dropping down to the side. Breathing in, head comes back to center. And breathing out, dropping down to the opposite side. Breathing in, coming back to center. Breathing out, staying center. Bringing your hands together at the center of your chest, and then taking a deep breath in as you extend the arms out as if you're reaching wingspan, just like that. Okay? Now, as you breathe out, give yourself a nice tight hug. Breathing in, extend the arms out to the sides. And breathing out, give yourself a nice tight hug. Breathing in, arms come out. Breathing out. Last time, breathing in. And breathing out. Breathing in, go ahead and take the arms back out to the sides. Breathing out, bringing the arms down. Now you'll take your hands and place them on top of your belly. And you can bring your eyes to a close or gaze down towards the hands, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And we'll just take a few deep breaths and noticing the rise and fall of our belly. Okay? So together we'll take a deep breath in, noticing when we feel the belly rise, and breathing out, allowing the belly to fall back towards the spine. Breathing in, again, noticing if the belly rises, and if you don't feel anything, that's okay too. And breathing out. Last time, breathing in, and breathe out. Now take your hands, bring them down on top of your lap, and then spin them up towards the ceiling. So I have mine elevated so that you can see, but you can leave your hands on your lap. Now taking a deep breath in, ball up the fist nice and tight, maybe so much that they're shaking. And then breathe out, let it go. Again, breathing in, tensing up the fist, Breathing out, let it go. Again, breathing in, tensing. Breathing out, release. Last time, breathing in and breathe out. Turning the palms back down on top of the legs. Once again, just noticing your posture as you sit up nice and straight, ears above your shoulders, shoulders above your hips, and placing your hands down on top of your lap. Once again, just noticing your breath, the rise and fall of your belly, your chest. Noticing any movement in the back. You just take a moment to notice any sensations that you're feeling in the body. And whatever you're feeling is okay. There's no right or wrong way to experience this practice. As you take a moment to think of 2 more things that you're grateful for today. Last time, I'll sound a bell. When you can no longer hear the sound of the bell, you can flutter your eyes open. All right. Thank you for allowing me to share that practice with you. So again, that was the practice of mindful movement, breathing, and centering techniques. And what I wanted you to take away from that brief practice is just that these are things that you can do throughout the day. Now, that was an extended practice, but what I want you to notice is if at any point during that practice something felt really good, that's something that maybe you might use throughout the day. And also pay attention to where you notice tension in your body, okay? Your issues are in your tissues. So when you notice that you're a person who, when you're stressed, you wear your shoulders as earrings, or you feel tension in your neck, or you feel it in your back, be sure to move that part of your body throughout the day, okay? Now let's jump back into this presentation. All right, so this is what stress looked like historically, okay? So this is, if anybody watches The Office, I'm just gonna, spoiler alert, this is Dwight from The Office back in caveman days, and that's him with Jim at the end, okay? So historically, stress looks something like this. If you're hungry, you leave your cave, you go and you look for some food. Now, at any moment, you may run into a saber-toothed tiger, and in that moment, you might have a few different reactions. You may run for your life, you might fight for your life, or you might play dead. Now, if you make it out alive, you get to go home, and you get to relax, and you get to restore. And you get to bring your body back down to a state of homeostasis, which is your ideal state of being. And you have time to recover so that the next time you leave your cave and you go and look for some food, you are prepared to fight that fight again, okay? But now, we're not experiencing where we're leaving the house and we're running into saber-toothed tigers, but our stressors, our new saber-toothed tigers, are things like our workload. It's things like trying to figure out and navigate this pandemic. It's our businesses, it's leadership, it is, it's money, it is all of the different things, the social media and getting up and all of your emails. These are the new saber-toothed tigers. And the difference between, the historic way that we navigated stress, where we had time to recover, and now is that from the moment that we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep, we are constantly experiencing stressors. And our body is reacting similarly to the way that Dwight's body reacted when he was being chased by that saber-toothed tiger. Heart rate's going up, breath rate's going up, blood pressure's going up. All of these things are happening to help us survive the stressors that we are experiencing, just like the saber-toothed tiger. But again, it's from sunup to sundown, and we aren't necessarily taking that time to relax and to restore and to recover, right? And so this is why over 75% of doctors' visits are stress related, because we are constantly experiencing stress and doing very little throughout the day to bring ourselves back down to fully recover and cope with the stress the next time that it presents. And so what ends up happening is we get stuck in this cycle where we are constantly experiencing stress and reacting to it over and over and over again. And when we experience that stress, the first place that it hits is the brain. And the brain is responsible for processing and perceiving that stressful information, and it tells you how to react. But when you are constantly experiencing stress over and over and over, and it's crossing the brain over and over and over, it's not the best for the brain. And this is why we end up having trouble with things like focusing, with coping strategies, right? Using healthy coping strategies. It's why we have trouble with responding in ways that are optimal, right? We start to get really reactive instead of mindfully responding, okay? And even it gets hard for us to have empathy for others, right? So in times where somebody needs us, a shoulder to lean on, it can almost be like, I have my own stuff going on, I can't take on yours too, right? And so again, this is what happens when we're constantly experiencing that stress. It's impacting the brain, first of all, but it's also impacting different parts of our body. And so we want to make sure that we have something in place to interrupt this cycle so that we're not getting stuck in this place of just stress, react, stress, react, stress, react, because this is why we're spiraling out of control. But if we can interrupt this cycle and start to find some strategies that we can put in place so that we're not just constantly stuck in here, then we can stand a chance to start coping in a more optimal way. More specifically, if we can start to use strategies that actually change the way that our brain impacts and interprets all of that stress that it's experiencing. So this is what I teach. What I do throughout the day is talk all about that X. It's all about things that you can put in place to interrupt this really toxic cycle that we find ourselves in. And what I have ended up coining it is the Mako method. The Mako method is 5 evidence-based practices that you can do throughout the day to manage your stress. And so these 5 evidence-based practices that I focus on are gratitude, affirmations, using static and moving practices as an enabler, journaling, and productive building. And the static and moving practices are the same thing as what we did at the very beginning, that mindful movement practice. Okay. So these 5 things are what I like to focus on. And at the end, I'm going to give you access a uh, to a PDF where you can download and you can actually find 50 different strategies that you can use throughout the day to manage your stress and to get some different ideas of how to use those different strategies. Okay. But now I want to move into some tips to share with you all on what you can do to start managing your stress and to start kind of seeing these things a little bit differently. So, of course, you can always use the different strategies from the actual Mako method framework, but you can also do things like this. So, the first thing is to focus on what you can control. So, if we were to look at some of the stressors that we experience today, things like your workload, your health, time management, kids, coworkers that act like kids, other people's problems, all of the things that we experience throughout the day, right? And if we look at how much we can actually control, we'll find that it's actually very little. If you follow Stephen Covey, he's a thought leader, especially in the field of leadership, right? He has this concept. It's called the 10-90 rule. And what the 10-90 rule says is that 10% of life is what happens to you, and 90% is how you respond. And it's not a mandate for happiness. It's not a hard science. This is just an invitation for us to begin looking at how we respond to the stress that we are experiencing. Okay. So when you look at, if you were to take a moment and audit your stressors, and I highly suggest that you do this, take some time and write down the things that are actually stressing you out. And then I want you to go through and circle all of the ones that are actually 100% within your ability to control. And I guarantee you'll find that it's very few of them. But then I want you to look at how you tend to respond to all the stress that you're experiencing and look at how much the things that are outside of your control are dictating the way that you are coping with those things, are dictating, the how you kind of live your life, how you're interacting with your family and your coworkers, and just how you're navigating day to day based on things that we really can't do anything about. So when I'm talking about focus on what you can control, again, it's about putting things in place to help you be able to control the things that you are experiencing a little bit differently, right? So it's practicing things like gratitude that helps you to build that silver lining, to be able to see that when stressful information comes in, you can start to see things from a different perspective, right? It's practicing that positivity and your different, working different parts of your brain to see things in different ways, to reframe things in different ways, okay? So that's my first tip, is to focus on what you can control and know that we may not be able to always control what happens to us, but what we can control is how we choose to respond to those things, okay? So we have to take that accountability, recognize what is within our ability to control, recognize what's not in our ability to control, and put things in place to help us respond to those things in a more optimal way, okay? My second tip for you all is to know your warning signs. Okay. Now, I like to think of ourselves as being like a stoplight. So you've got red, yellow, and green, right? Traditionally, with a stoplight, red, you stop, yellow, you slow down, and green, you're good to go. And so this is another thing that I suggest that you do is take a moment to step back and really write out what are your warning signs that tell you that you are in a space where you are experiencing more stress. So maybe if you're green, you have consistent days of like you feel really good. Like I'll give you me for example. So for me, I know that I'm really good when I'm waking up, I'm on my morning routine, I'm listening. I have a morning routine that I do every single day. And when I'm consistent with that, I'm feeling good. I'm keeping in touch with my friends and my family and things like that. I know that I'm doing pretty well and I keep going in that season, right? When I am in yellow, I am becoming less responsive to people. I am noticing that I'm just really not wanting to be very social, not wanting to be around people. I know that I need to kind of take a step back and see if there's some things that I can put in place to contribute to whatever it is in a different way, right? So reaching out, leaning on my assistant and people in my team a little bit more. And then if it's red, I am completely checked out. This is when I'm more agitated. This is when I'm just, it's a little bit more nightmare, Amanda, right? That means I need to take a break. That means I actually need to close everything. And what I know is that when I'm in red, I'm not good for anybody, right? So my responses are not as good, right? My work is just, I'm just not as clear. And so I know that I need to step back and take the time that I need to be able to show up as who I need to be. Okay. And so what I suggest that you do is you look at what does it look like when I'm really good? What does it look like when I know I need to maybe slow down a little bit? And what does it look like when I need a hard stop? And pay attention to that. And it might even be that each day you kind of give yourself a score, okay? Or throughout the day you give yourself a score and you notice when you're kind of consistently in these different places. And then that's when you have that sign, that warning sign that you need to do something. So audit what it is that your warning signs look like. And then further, what are the things that you can do to cope in those moments? And I suggest that you write it down so that you can find it when you really need it. Okay. So sometimes when we're in that stress state, the part of our brain that's responsible for thinking, learning, listening, language, it essentially shuts down. So when we're already really stressed, like if you're in red, thinking about what to do is really hard. You're just trying to cope. And so if you have it written down somewhere, have your game plan laid out for how you're going to cope in those moments. Green, you know you're good to go. Yellow, okay, at this time I need to delegate a little bit more work. I need to put on my out of office on my email, even if I'm in, just so that I don't feel so pressured to respond immediately. Red, I need to take a break. I need to take a day off, right? Maybe I'm approaching burnout and experiencing some of those things where I am receiving more than I can take on. And I know that if I don't do something about it soon, I'm going to absolutely snap, right? So pay attention to your warning signs, audit yourself, and have your game plan in place for how you will cope with each different phase, okay? The last thing that I have for you all is to practice being calm, positive, relaxed, whatever it is, okay? Whatever emotional state that it is that you want to be in, I want you to practice being in that emotional state. So if anyone is a person who, like, if you ever played sports, if you played the sport, you can tell me in the chat, right? If you've ever played sports, like I played basketball, I was a dancer, I did tennis, I did a lot, y'all. But what I know is if I wanted to get better at anything that I was doing, I had to practice. And the more that I practice, oh, you played baseball and ran track, nice. So the more that I have to practice, or the more that I practice, the better I became. And I'm sure it was the same for you. The more that you practice, the better that you became at that, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to different emotional states that we want to be in, okay? So it's the same thing with self care. If you want to be better at taking care of yourself when you're stressed, I suggest that you start practicing taking care of yourself so that when you really need to take care of yourself, you've already been practicing, right? Because, like, let's take basketball, for example. Like, if you ever played basketball, I used to, right? And a coach called out a play, you knew what to do because you had been practicing that play over and over and over again. And it's the same thing when it comes to your self care. When you're practicing your self care, right? You have been practicing and your brain can actually find it as a resource when it needs it. It builds that neural pathway to know that this is something that you can actually use in a moment of stress versus defaulting to whatever it is that you have. Okay. So Joey didn't know that he was going to do this, but we're actually going to practice being positive. So Joey, if you can come back really quickly, I'm going to show you real quick some affirmations. Do you see these up on the screen?
I do. Do you
Okay.
see me?
Yeah. So affirmations are positive statements about our life, about our situations, just these, affirming statements that we can say throughout the day that can actually make us feel really empowered, right? They can also make us feel a lot of other ways, but I'll get to that in just a second. First, I want to do something with Joey. So Joey, you see these affirmations up on the screen, and we're going to do an exercise where you're going to say an affirmation, and I
Okay.
am going to affirm you with a lot of enthusiasm.
All
Okay?
right.
You're going to say another one, and I'm going to affirm you again. And you can use these, or you can come up with your own. I want you to say what you feel. I want you to say what you need to hear. Let's do this, and everybody's going to watch.
All
Okay?
right.
All right.
I am confident.
You are so confident.
I am powerful.
You are so powerful.
I am creative.
You are so creative.
I am getting stronger every day.
Yes, you are. You are so strong. I'm proud of you.
I expect miracles.
Don't expect miracles. You're a miracle magnet.
I have unlimited potential.
Yes, you do. I see it every single time I talk to you.
I have the power to change my story.
Yes, you do. I can't wait to see what you come up with.
I am who I want to be.
I'm so glad. I like who you are.
I love and accept myself.
You should. We all love you and accept you and appreciate you putting on this webinar. So we're going to do some imaginary claps. Yay! For Joey. Okay, so that was a cool little exercise. And, usually when I do this, it's in groups, and pre-COVID, it would be like a huge room and it would be so much fun. But if you all noticed, right, when Joey was doing those affirmations, you might have seen, to me, he kind of lit up like a little Christmas tree, okay? And so when we do that exercise, I like to remind people of a few different things. The first thing is, I always ask, like, was it awkward, right, to come up with these positive things about yourself? And usually, quite a few people are like, "Oh, yeah, it was pretty awkward, right, to have to come up with those things to say positive things about themselves." But then if I ask them, stand up and tell me everything that you don't like about work and your life and everything that's going on, people could go all day. It doesn't feel awkward. They're used to it. Actually, they could teach a master class on it. They ask me for more time, right? And so we have around 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and over 80% of them are negative, okay? And usually people are like, yeah, I agree, right? And so it's easy to believe because we have a lot of practice being negative. That's why it comes up so easy for us. But when it comes to saying positive things about ourselves, sometimes it can feel a little bit awkward. It can feel a little bit, I'm not sure, this doesn't feel real. But the thing is that we can be just as good at finding and speaking the positive things about ourselves as we are at speaking the negative things about ourselves. But again, we're really good at the negative because we have so much practice. And so, just like tip number 3, practice being positive, practice being calm, relaxed, whatever emotional state it is that you want. I highly suggest that you do something like affirmations, that you do something like gratitude, these more positive practices where you're highlighting positive things about yourself. Now, I understand that sometimes it's like you say an affirmation and it just doesn't feel real, right? Like it's like this disconnect where it's like you say, I am confident, and it's like, but I'm really not. Am I really that great, right? So, what I challenge you to do is if you see these affirmations and any of them make you feel a little like, I don't know, I want you to take that affirmation and I want you to kind of follow this thought train of how you can make that come true, right? So, for instance, like I used to be super nervous to be a speaker. As you can tell, it doesn't bother me anymore, right? But I was not the most confident person. But as I began practicing, as I began, getting different tips, taking different classes, practicing in the mirror, I built that confidence. And now I can say, I am confident, right? It might be that, if you're saying I am powerful, it's taking time to step back and noticing the places in your life where you are powerful so that when you say it, you can say it with conviction. And if you don't feel like when you say I am happy, it doesn't match, ask yourself, what can I do to be happier today? What can I do to be more successful today? So when affirmations aren't quite lining up, the ones that you want to be able to say for your life, I want you to follow that thought train to think about how can I make this come true? Okay. And it feels best when you can really feel it. So I want you to continue practicing those different things that are going to help move you into the place that when you say these things, you can say them and you can feel good about them. Okay. And so my key takeaways for today that I want you all to leave knowing from me. First of all, prevention. A lot of times we say, when I'm stressed, I do boom, whatever it is, right? I go for a walk, I, hang out with my family, whatever it is. I don't want you to just wait until you're stressed. Those things are really great to do, but I also want you to do things before the stress even happens. Take a preventative approach to managing your stress. Make self-care and stress management a part of your daily routine, from your morning routine to making sure you're taking breaks throughout the day to making sure that you're detaching from devices at the end of the night. Take a preventative approach and make sure that you're putting things in place to take care of yourself along the way. The second thing is repetition is key. So just like I said, if you were a basketball player, the reason why you knew what plays to do when the coach called it out is because you had a lot of practice. It is the same thing when it comes to your stress management. The more that you practice, the more that you're able to strengthen that neural pathway to be able to actually respond in the most optimal way when you're under that stress, because your brain knows it's a resource. So as you begin practicing and doing things to manage your stress a little bit better, your brain starts to say, oh, this works for me when it's under stress, instead of defaulting to whatever it usually does. Maybe usually it's like, oh, let's go to happy hour. Oh, let's cuss this person out. Oh, let's shut down, right? And that's what makes it feel in control. But we can introduce new things to make the brain feel in control. And the last thing is to have grace with yourself. These things take time. Like I said, repetition and prevention are key, right? But it takes time for you to build and strengthen that pathway. Okay. So give yourself grace. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good seasons. You may have bad seasons, right? But it's all about the way that you continue to show up for yourself. You have to take this seriously and take your time and give yourself grace along the way. Okay. None of us are perfect and we're all trying to figure out a lot at the same time. Okay. So give yourself that grace that you deserve. All right. So that's all I have for you today for my time. I hope that you all were able to take away some key things that you can use for managing your stress. If you are interested in the Mako method, which were those 5 evidence-based practices you can do throughout the day to manage your stress, feel free to download our guide at www.themakomethod.com. This has 50 different ideas for managing your stress and tells you a little bit more about that framework and how gratitude works and how journaling works and things like that. Okay, and if you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email at info@makomindfulness.com, or follow me on socials, Mako Mindfulness, or on LinkedIn, Amanda Muhammad. But thank you so much for listening to me ramble about what I love most, which is teaching you all how to build resilience to the stress that you may be experiencing. I hope you are able to take away some valuable content, and I hope that you create a great day and a great life. Thank you so much for having me.
I feel lighter already, Amanda. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Let's see here. We can stop the screen share. And for those of you who are tuning in and you went through the mindfulness practice, go ahead and drop comments in the chat about how the session made you feel, what stood out to you, what areas you think you would want to work on. I love, Amanda, we said your issues are in your tissues. And so
In minds, we also hold it in our bodies.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna be wondering, where do I carry my stress, and get that worked out. But we are so grateful that you led this session for us today. Not only did you practical insight, and I did light up like a Christmas tree when I was reading those affirmations. So I need you to follow me around and um, and be my
Yeah. We can jump on and do that anytime.
All right. Uh, Gwendolyn says, I enjoyed the presentation. I need to work on affirmations. And Sonia said, love all. And
yeah, it sounds like everybody yeah. Yeah. I think we all do, right? I think that this day and age, it's really easy to forget to affirm yourself. There's a lot of us that is, kind of discouraging to compare ourselves. There's so much that's just kind of pushed in our face. And so we take that upon ourselves to make sure that we are affirmed. And then also make sure that we are taking the time to affirm each other. So I always say, like, if you felt really good receiving that, imagine how good it would feel to someone else, right? So continue for each other.
That is so true. That is so true. Then checking my warning signs and practicing the actions.
I think those little check-ins throughout the day, Joey, you said, like, where am I holding tension? Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Ask myself a lot. How do I feel? And answering that, and so do little check moments that you're typically more like if you have standing meetings right now.
So good, so good. All right, well, maybe 14 minutes tracking down mails and send an email to say thank you. But this is very enlightening. I feel, and if you're looking to this to your business, for sure, reach out to them at mindfulness.com. This is in the need of some out to us at Jumpstart. That's Jumpstart-8. So we're going to go ahead and end the share and follow me at Joey V Price HO. What other topics you'd be interested in sessions? And I also want to give to Sonia, who's in the session next week on jumpstarting you up to some of the stress way. Next week, we're going to help you tackle and move forward on those goals in your life. Till next week, I will see you all soon. Amanda, thank you.
Everybody.
Will.